Hey everyone, Kim here, Abundant Life Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me. We are exploring the horrific case of Private First Class Katia Duenas-Aguilar, a 23-year-old Army soldier and mom of a cute little 4-year-old boy whose life was brutally taken on May 18, 2024. This is a tough one, you all. So, I have to say, you have to brace yourselves if you're ready to hear this case, okay? So, here's some background. Katia, she's a single mom, like I mentioned, and a decorated soldier working as an IT specialist for the United States Army. On May 18th, 2024, her body was found in her Tennessee apartment, which is only 6.6 miles away from the Army base at which she works. She works for Fort Campbell out of Kentucky. And interestingly enough, she lives like right near the border between Tennessee, the states of Tennessee and Kentucky. Her autopsy was released a few days ago and revealed she was stabbed 68 times. Her mom reported a significant drop in contact with Katia a month earlier than when this all occurred, so like April, right? And even before that, Katia had mentioned she was ready to leave the Army and move back to Texas, where she's from, Mesquite, Texas. However, she later changed her mind after the military counselor convinced her to just prepare to re-enlist in the Army. See, she had been with the United States Army since 2018, and so we're now at 2024, and she's probably tired. She says, Mom, she misses her family, I'd imagine, and she's ready to start the next chapter of her life, right? That's what I'm tapping into. She even had a resignation date of May 6, 2024, but that counselor had persuaded her to reconsider her decision, and she did. Katia confided in her sister that she was told not to live for her mother and that she needed to live for herself. Her sister then asked Katia if she was happy, and she admitted to her dear sister that she was not. And that is at the point her sister told her, we want you here in Mesquite, Texas. So it's heartbreaking, it's just heartbreaking because I would imagine had the counselor not been pressuring her so much, maybe she would have gotten out of the situation or it went on a different trajectory, coulda, woulda, shouldas, but you can't help but to think that. And if you ever dealt with the recruiting process, or I would imagine if you're in the military and you say you want to leave, I've spoken to recruiters back when I was 18, and I know how they can be and how pervasive they can be just at recruitment. So I can only imagine as someone who's trying to leave, right? Anyways, I digress. Back to Katia. She was found by a friend in her locked bedroom, and then an ambulance was called on May 18th at 8:33 p.m. Much of her wounds are concentrated at the neck, chest, head, and shoulder area, primarily the right side of her neck. Okay. And toxicology reports reveal she had a blood alcohol level of 0.161 and traces of GHB in her system. According to the Clarksville Police Department Facebook page, I like to sometimes scroll through the police department's Facebook posts because it always inevitably has somebody who's saying something on there. And I saw that a commenter who claims to be Katia's, I'm assuming, friend, but it sounds like the roommate who she lives with, said that she and her children were in the home when it happened. And she also stated that the father of Katia's son came and took him back to Georgia with him. And there's a $55,000 reward up for information leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for her death. And you can anonymously submit a tip via telephone line or via online. So I'll include that information in the description box. But I had to give you all this background information because I covered a similar case where it involved a female U.S. military soldier, military police at that, Denisha Montgomery Smith. I covered her case maybe a year or two prior to now. And it just disturbs me on what goes on and the lack of support that the soldier and their family gets when something like this happens. So this is near and dear to my heart, and I felt called to do a reading on it. So yeah, I had to go ahead and give you all a long background, but I felt it necessary. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started and get into this reading. Okay, so let's see what we've got going on here. We're going to tap into the energies surrounding who may be responsible. Her family didn't mention anyone that she was dating, and like I mentioned in the introduction, the baby's father came and picked him up from Georgia. So I would presume that maybe the baby's dad is not really, actively in her life. I don't know about the child's life, right? So who would do this? We have water, highly emotional situation. We have ear. Sorry, guys. Backed into the bookshelf. Okay. Let's see what else comes up. Spirit, what else can you share with us? Comment. The water, I will tell you. Oh, that one just flew out. Whoa. The water element tells me this is a highly emotionally charged situation. Okay. Hand. Okay. Okay, we have our cards. We're going to go with them. The first card we have here is water. All right, so like I mentioned before, this is the very start of the reading, and we're talking about subconscious thoughts, mysterious feelings, a highly emotionally concentrated situation. What I mean by that is that the emotions run deep. And when I see a card like this, this tells me that if there's emotions involved, that makes sense to why the actual attack is so vicious, right? Now, of course, a stranger could have high emotions and be highly volatile, right? And attack and be a stranger to her. But this card tells me something. It tells me that this situation runs deep and it's highly emotionally charged. Okay, so we have that card. That's the overall energies. That's the opening oracle card to the reading. The next card we have is ear. So ear is about hearing something, hearing news, listening to others, being aware of situations. Sometimes this card can come up and say that there was a witness who heard something, okay? It also could speak to moments that preceded and moments that happened after the crime. So what I mean by moments preceding, say days, weeks, months, where someone heard something, someone heard some news, the perpetrator heard some news about her wanting to explore new opportunities. We have the door card, or it could be this person wanting to explore new opportunities, and maybe she feeling a way about that. When we get cards, and I like to also teach as I read, when we get cards, it's not just speaking singularity to something. Sure, it could be, but it also could be touching on different areas. And I think this ear card speaks to that. There is an auditory witness. meaning someone heard something, heard a conversation, heard actually what happened, but didn't register in their mind what was happening, because she was stabbed 68 times. And someone claims, now it could be totally false and totally like somebody just spouting off, but maybe not. But somebody was there. And it makes sense because she was suspected to have died on May 18th, the same day that she was reported, like something was going on. So how would that happen? The door is locked. That's another thing. Let's talk about the door. The door to her bedroom was locked. So somebody heard something. Someone heard something. The door was locked. And that means that whoever called the ambulance may have been in the house, may have heard something, may know something, may have heard, you maybe not have seen something, but heard something, heard conversations, heard bumps and knocking and whatnot. I mean, can you imagine someone is being stabbed that many times, and she's 23 years old and she's a soldier. And I would imagine she put up a fight as best she could. So someone heard something. I would imagine it may be the roommate. And, I screenshot the Facebook post that I saw in the police department's post. It's always interesting, though, when these things happen, go to the police department's posts on their Facebook pages and you will see some things. Maybe not, no newsworthy most times, but every now and then you get some information and insight. We have door. So 33, card number 33. Now I've talked to you about the door. Literally, this is obviously something here because the person must have went out the window, or maybe she has a patio door. I don't know what her apartment or her townhome looks like, what the layout is. But the door is locked. So who did that? Did someone lock the door and behind them and then proceeded to go out the front door? That could be the case. That very well could be the case. I don't know. Or did they go out the window? But there could be fingerprints, something to do with the door. But this card is also symbolic of someone wanting to enter a new phase in their life, a new situation. They're at a point where they're making choices to accept new opportunities. And it's a matter of time situation before they walk through the door. So it could be whoever did this that attacked her, or she could have been ready to walk through a different door, make a different choice, go do something else. And that was a problem. Now we have the comment card. Let's talk about that problem. Let's talk about the problem. So comment, when this comes up, this is a card that represents utter disaster, turmoil, catastrophe, and destruction. It is a bad omen. So because someone, let me see if I could zoom in. I'm sorry, you all. It's been a while since I did a Mystery Mystic reading, as you all know. So I'm a little out of practice. My apologies. Let me zoom in. So the comment is sitting next to the door. So to someone who, they find that this door that's closing or opening for this other person in this relationship dynamic is catastrophic. It is bringing about destruction. And it is a reason to fight. It is a reason to raise holy hell and war with her. And it led to her demise. When you get a card like this, a comment, okay? And let's go a little deeper. Let's go a little bit into why. We have the 79 card. This is Scourge. The keywords to this card is discipline, punishment, brutality, extreme suffering, shame, and subjugation. Shame. Someone would feel ashamed if she goes and does something different. Someone had been disciplining her, wanting to discipline her and punish her and be brutal towards her as a retaliation to her just simply wanting to do something different in her life. That's it. That's interesting. We have candle. Let's look at the candle card. This could be also about shedding light on a situation. Okay, so it could be about, the light being shown on this situation soon. And this could be a sign of encouragement, which we like to see. It also is, you could tell that she was a bright light. And it could be that an auditory witness is going to shed light on this situation. Okay. We have hand, card 12. Okay. Who had a hand in this, right? Giving or receiving help. Friendliness. Using one's skills for a purpose of the keywords. But this is like, when I see the hand on the door, it's like, could somebody's fingerprints be on there? When you're looking at physicality. Or could it be, who had a hand on the doorknob to leave? Who was about to leave a situation? I sense that she was about to leave a situation, right? Because things in her life had grown toxic with this poison card. This is the last Mildred Payne Secret Pocket Oracle card that jumped. Poison. This was a poisonous situation. And someone had their, you know how like you get ready to go and you got your hand on the dough, and that means it's that, yeah, I'm out. I'm leaving. That's the feeling I'm getting here. That somebody had their hand on the doorknob. They were leaving. They were about to embrace a new beginning. And that was a problem because they needed to get away from a toxic situation. Now, let's look at this card a little closer. We have here poison. It says accepting something harmful. Self-destruction, toxic people. I think all of it applies, to be honest. I think that she had realized that she had accepted something that was toxic. A toxic situation, a toxic person. And at times it caused her to even self-destruct, to go within. It's not, this is not saying anything about her or how she was dealing. I think she was doing her absolute best and doing what she could do in light of the circumstances to exit a situation that felt toxic. But that's what I'm feeling here in terms of her needing to get out of a situation. It could be also literally poison, where someone had been trying to taint something, trying to taint her mind or taint, the relationships around her, isolate her. It could be also literally poison. And we know that to be true because her toxicology reports came back, and it's reported that she had GHB, the quote unquote date great drug in her system, and that was in her system. So why would that need to be in her system? Did she willingly take that, or did someone try to subdue her? And that would imply intention and motivation, premeditation, right? Yes, somebody could maybe later on try to say it was a crime of passion, but that element of the drug in her system is by no accident. It has something to do with her demise, as it sits underneath the comment card. And it is an important part of premeditation and how we got here. Because I have a feeling, next to the hand card, had that not have been, she would have had maybe more of her wherewithal to fight or yell or scream and not be subdued as much, and raise holy hell. But because someone had did this to her, well, that subdued her. And even if she was fighting, and it sounds like this person was smart enough to know getting her in that artery in her neck would take her out quickly. This is an evil, evil person. I mean, aside, sometimes people could say crime of passion, and you could say, okay, maybe they're not evil, they lost it. I don't know about that with this person. I'll just leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I feel like it's beyond just crime of passion. This is utter brutality, as we see here with this card. Okay, I'm going to pause here and take a picture, or at least pause here so I can get my other deck that I like to use. I'll be right back. Okay, so we are using the Divine Shadow Self Oracle. This is from Divine Visions. And we are taking a look at the energies surrounding Katia. What happened? We have the first card is disagreeable. That's what I was talking about earlier, about them saying we have insecurities, somebody not liking the fact that she wants to move on with her life. We have closed off. Okay, let's talk about that. Spirit, thank you. Ignorance. Okay. Let's do some more. We're going to do 4 more, Spirit. Thank you. We have bias. That's interesting. Emotional blackmail. One fell to the floor. Oh. Let's see. I'm going to reshuffle that one. Let's see what we've got. Katia. Entanglement. Withdrawn. I have so many feelings about these cards. And here's why. So there's a few cards here that tells me there was some isolation going on with her. And that is evidenced by what her mom and her, particularly what her mom was saying. Her mom said that, you know, she normally stays in contact with her daughter, with, you know, Katia, and she, you know, in that month preceding her death, the contact completely dropped. She, you know, it was like, what's that about? One minute she has plans and she's very certain about those plans of leaving the army. She's ready to move on. She wants to move away even. She even tells her mom to pick a state in the United States to move, and they would buy a house together. And then that changes. And then this happens. So these cards are giving us that information about what that's about. We have here disagreeable. Who's disagreeable? She could be disagreeable. And whoever that did this is disagreeable, to me indicating someone close to her. It's just interesting to me that police haven't released, and I know they want to protect the investigation, and that totally makes sense that they don't want to, you know, show their hand. But I would imagine that there's someone that is known to have been in her life, and this person is disagreeable. They're argumentative. They find that she's disagreeable and argumentative, perhaps. Insecurities. This person is highly insecure that she's dealing with. Sure, it could represent that she had insecurities, but I sense that it's more about this person's insecurities. Okay? And then we have closed off. Could be that she was closing off to this person, and that caused an issue and act like really triggered that person's insecurities, as we see here, and made them react in a certain way. It also could be that there was a lot of emotional, because this insecurities card is sitting over the emotional blackmail card. This is about her. For me, what I'm picking up on is that this is about her being subjected to someone emotionally blackmailing her, saying, you know, you can't do this to me. You know, I need to, you know, this needs to be this way. You know, just, yeah, that's the energy I'm getting from that. And as a result, she starts to close off, close away. That's how she feels like she can best protect everyone involved. Keeping people, and people are ignorant to how far and deep this goes for her. Now, I suppose this could be that she's ignorant to how deep this goes for herself and her safety as well. But I get a sense that what all this line of cards is saying, that that this was all the intention, that people would not really know. Like they saw her as a strong person, a strong mother, a strong soldier, a strong person. And she's not letting off a lot of information about what's going on in her life. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. Maybe key people haven't spoken up yet. I don't know. But ignorance is prevalent in this situation. And what I'm sensing with ignorance is that loved ones maybe not have been ignorant to the fact that this was all going on that she was dealing with. Biased. There is a bias that could be happening, and this could be signifying that she's dealing with a bias at work, or maybe this person that she's dealing with also works for the military or around the military, and she's afraid of bias, or that this whole scenario, like we haven't heard much. Like you would think that such a case like this would get a lot of attention, national attention. This is horrific what happened to her. And that's alarming that we haven't really heard about it, and that the alarm hasn't really truly been raised. Thankfully, I've seen some things like on YouTube and like TikTok that people are raising the alarm. I think I saw something on Instagram, but more needs to be said because, clearly, I wonder if the counselor knows more. The military counselor, I can't speak to that. Obviously, we don't know, but she was struggling with something, dealing with something. And I wonder if that came out. And because they were so bent on her staying, that was the primary thing to do. They are not just biased, but what is the word? It's not bias, but it's when I'm losing my words here, my vocabulary. But basically, your motivations as a counselor should be pure, where you're just wanting to make sure the patient is okay, right? Or your client or what have you. But because the military is paying you and they want certain outcomes, you are influenced and you are biased, and you will sway her to do some things that may not have been in her best interest. That's what I'm picking up on here. Now, the bias card could mean something entirely different, I know, but that's what I'm picking up on here. We talked about emotional blackmail. There's some level of that. A lot of it I'm sensing with this whole situation. I could 100% be wrong, and this could be stranger danger that did this to her, but I think that it's not, and I think that they could be maybe have some kind of influence, some sort of government affiliation next to the bias card. And that ties into the entanglement card. I mean, entanglement could mean a lot of things. It could mean this is, lots of tentacles involved in this situation. It's not as cutthroat. It could mean a third party energy. Entanglement can mean that, it's blending work life and love life. It could mean that. So I'm curious to hear what you think the entanglement card can mean. And withdrawn. Now, this is twofold. This is speaking to her being withdrawn and closed off from her family and not really opening up to everything that she's been going through in the last few, several months. But this is also speaking to the suspect. The suspect is also withdrawn, really withdrawn from their normal activities, really withdrawn from even taking care of themselves. They will noticeably look distraught and like just a mess, like hygiene is a mess. They're, maybe unkempt is what I'm saying. And that they're closing in. Maybe they're normally social beings like out there, and they're withdrawn. So if you are around her or work around her and you notice someone who also had a close tie to her that has started to noticeably show signs of withdrawal, and this could be literally withdrawal, like drug withdrawals, I suppose. If you noticeably notice that, that is something that could be a sign. We don't want to just assume, right? But it could be a sign that that person who could be close to her, who's going through some things, 5 o'clock shadow, doesn't look right, smells a little funny, looks like they ain't slept in a few days. They withdrew for a week or two so their wounds get healed because they did stab her 68 times. There was several wounds on her body, right? What ends up happening is what's called slippage when you're using a knife. And then the injury is to the perpetrator. And they usually get injured on their hand from the slippage of the knife. So they had to withdraw for a little while so that they could heal a bit, cover up. So there you go. So that's what we've got with these cards. I'm going to pause here. Now I'm going to take a picture of these two sets and we're going to move on to the next one. This is our detailed oracle reading and we're just seeing what the cards have to say. Be right back. Okay, so we're gonna use this deck for a moment. I wanted to just see what are we dealing with here in terms of the crime or who did it or motive. This is what this deck can do for us. Okay. That's interesting. I don't know. Some conflicting information here. So we have victim or victim's family was familiar with the perp. Okay. So this could be that she's familiar with this person. Her family may be a friend or a close loved one, or her family member may know about this person, but they're just not saying who it is to the public because they don't want to jeopardize the investigation, which is understandable. Then we have here important details are not being revealed to the public at this time. That makes sense. And so there's a lot more details, a lot more things to navigate because we're dealing with both the civilian police, the Clarksville Police Department, as well as military police. They also want tips being reported. So it's like you have to be extra careful because it could be, very well could be, that this is involving someone with important ties, such as military ties, and they have to handle this accordingly, and they don't want to mess up, and we understand that. That can also speak to maybe the victim's family knowing more, but they can't release more, right? It also could speak to law enforcement knowing more, but not really. They did put out, something to the public, I believe, saying that they want, if you have any tips, report those tips. But it's interesting to me, like there's not this massive call, like we don't have any suspects. They didn't say that. You got to be very mindful of what law enforcement says and doesn't say. And in this case, what they haven't really overtly said is that they don't have any suspects. They never said that. It's just an outstanding case at this point. So there's that. We have surveillance cameras may provide important clues. So surveillance at the home of hers or surveillance near the complex she lives in can supply important clues. Also, surveillance cameras captures not just near the crime scene, but also it paints a picture for, let's say, someone claims that they're here, but really they're not. They're over here. You know, it's like it just can help poke holes because the law enforcement is able to paint a picture or even make a movie of sorts with all the surveillance footage of this person's movements. Okay, so we have here the murder weapon used will provide valuable clues. And look, we see that knife. So the type of weapon that was used, the type of knife that was used or weapon that was used to stab her will be critical to the case. Sometimes it's not necessarily the weapon itself, but it's DNA. But in this case, there's something about that knife or that weapon that will really put the nail in the coffin, so to speak. Okay. Let's go here. We have already interviewed the killer. So again, we have important details are not being revealed to the public at this time. That's this card. But then we have already interviewed the perp. But this is the card that threw me off. It says, need to interview more suspects. Now, suspects could be someone who helped after the fact, right? Accessory after the fact, or someone aiding and abetting, or someone who unwittingly or wittingly helped the perp to get away with it, to cover it up, or to delay and turning themselves in. It could be also that there's somebody else involved. And this could be why her family or the spokesperson for her family, I noticed, used choice words about those who are involved. Now, we can certainly think, and rightfully so, that it's just one person who did the actual taking of her life with the knife or whatever sharp object. But there could also be others who have helped this person along the way. And so that could be what this is about, this need to interview more suspects card. So we have that. Okay. All right. I'm going to pause right here and move these cards.